So, evening everyone. So, if anyone's got any questions, then I'm going to try and keep up with the comments. And I think Harriet, you can do the comments as well. So, if
Yeah.
anyone specifically to do with dating, and actually we're sat here in two completely different environments. I'm here with two dogs currently on the bed in front of me, three small children under 5. Oh, hello. There's that's my husband's pile of washing. That's really, really, really attractive. I was trying to find the dog.
Very
There's one
sexy.
dog. There he is. Um, and three small children who are aged 1, 3, and 5. And then you are there as a singleton. Well, actually, you've kind of got a boyfriend, haven't you?
I mean, we haven't actually defined the word yet, so we don't know what it is. But yeah, like I'm currently living with someone, so yes. Apart from just
Oh,
my
is he?
dog.
Are you in isolation with him?
Yes. Yeah,
So
I
are
know.
you one of these
Like,
couples? Actually, a lot of people have been asking, as in one of these couples who suddenly, because of isolation, they've gone, fuck it, let's just go into isolation together. So
I mean,
they've basically gone 100 from 0 to 100.
pretty much. I don't think we had a kind of like let's go into isolation together conversation. More like we were together when it was like, and now we're locking down, and we were like, oh, well, we're here now. So,
And how's it going?
it's good. I think it's,
Or
I
is
mean,
he listening, like sat
yeah,
next to
he's
you?
literally in the other room, so like, you can get his opinion. We haven't had a massive row yet, so I think that's a plus. And I still quite like him, so that's a plus. So I think,
Mm.
overall, we are not doing badly. I mean, I have a tiny, tiny flat, so it's not, it's just about big enough for me, not really big enough for me and a dog. So me and another person and a dog. Um, but it's funny. Like, so if anyone who doesn't know, so I have been single for a very, very long time, as Emma knows, because I just talk to her about it constantly. And um, and so when you're kind of then in a relationship with somebody who is actually quite good at being in a relationship, you kind of shows you like, oh, okay, I don't really know how to do this, but you do. So I can kind of learn a bit from you. I think is how I'm looking at it. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not. That's my
Nice. What are your tips for anyone that sort of has thrown themselves into, I mean, obviously you're not an
for a week
expert.
in.
No one's an
Could all
expert.
go wrong tomorrow.
Yeah, but yeah, from what the work you've done and everything, and what sort of tips would you give people who have done that? We'll get on to the single people, yeah, in a minute, but that kind of the people that have just gone right 0 to 100, we're just going to lock ourselves in now with someone that we barely know.
So I think what I'd say, like putting my kind of coach hat on, I would say, so two things, which is one, inevitably all relationships are about communication and can you talk about what's going on and can you talk about how you're feeling, but also this is like a slightly different time. So in a way, if you had just chosen to live with somebody and you'd moved in together and then you were like, how do we work it out? It's actually a bit of a different conversation than how do you deal with global pandemic while you're in isolation together. Because hopefully this is never a situation you'll have to go through ever again. And I think as a friend of mine said the other day, she was like, you just, everyone has to cut themselves some slack. Everyone has to cut themselves some slack. Everyone has to say, actually, we're probably all working at a higher anxiety level than we would be normally. We're all working at a higher stress level. So this is not the time really to be like, oh, there's this thing that I think we should have a big, deep, meaningful conversation about, because actually there's lots of other big, deep stuff going on in the world. So,
Yeah. And also it's that if you're stressed, that if you're
yeah.
stressed, like libido and everything goes out the window anyway, doesn't it? It's sort of we got all this anxiety and stress going on. So actually,
Yeah.
even from I'm married, you've just
Yeah.
started it, sort of whatever stage. I don't think we're sort of is that really
Absolutely.
the top of our list, really.
Absolutely. And I think I keep changing the angle because
Hey,
I'm getting a
so
bit tired, but it's fine. I think there's something about knowing that, like, it's this kind of like a classic joke, which is like, oh, you're in lockdown with your other half, so we're going to have all of these coronavirus babies in 9 months' time. We're going to have a whole new generation because of coronavirus. Yes, but also if you're like, actually, if you just want to go to bed and have a nap and nothing
yeah.
more, know that that's probably a really normal response to what's going on right now, and that's okay.
Exactly. And just wear pajamas and just, I
Yeah.
don't know if I've washed, look, as you can see, I don't know if I've washed my hair for about 8 days. Who cares? Fuck
Yeah.
it.
So I think just know that, and also then know that, like, well, this is a time when, you know, we all complain that we don't get enough time with our partners. We complain that we don't get enough time together, or
Katie.
that everything's so busy. Hello. And actually, if now all you've got is time, I would stop thinking about the stuff that's like, oh, well, could this be difficult, or what might make this hard, or, you know, should we be worrying about this? And actually, like, actually, we've got a bit of time together. How can we play and have some fun and just kind of appreciate the fact that we're not doing, and I want to talk about isolation by yourself as well, because that's really different, but we're not doing isolation alone. We've got somebody else. So how can we make that a bit more, how can we make that a bit more fun? How can we have some fun in this space? Yeah.
Yeah, and we were, I mean, when we spoke on Saturday, we were saying that actually on the date, you know, on the dating site front, because, you know, our sites sort of got a lot busier and other sites are busier, is that, you know, actually, is it going to make people actually have proper conversations with each other, and rather than go, we're going to go out, first date, Tinder date or Bumble date or KK date or whatever, and get complete shit faced within like 15 minutes and then end up having sex and going, wow, he's the one.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. Actually, is it going to make people on that front just actually start, just, you know, pick up the phone or have Zoom meetings or Skype meetings and actually just have full-on conversations, and, you know, with random people?
I hope so. And the one thing that I would say is that I know that if I was like single now and like all over, I mean, I totally would be all over all the dating apps right now, because I'd be really bored and there would be nothing else to do. So I'd be like, oh, I'll just, you know, swipe.
Yeah.
Who's maybe going to try and convince me that they've had coronavirus and they're okay to come over. I don't know.
There's probably a lot of people doing that. Yeah,
I think this is like the new chat up line. Don't worry, I've had it. I'm no longer sexist. I'm good.
I'll give you my antibodies.
Give you my antibodies, exactly. But I don't know about anybody else, but I found it really easy when I was dating to like get to a place with people, not so much later on, I learned the lesson, but certainly in the beginning of my dating life, to get into a place with where I felt a really strong connection with them before I'd even met them.
Yeah.
Because you'd have all this chat and then you'd be like, oh my God, I feel like there's a real connection here. And then either the date would never happen, like you'd do that, well, let's go for wine. Oh yeah, and then it just never happens. Or you meet up and then nothing like they think they are in person. And so I think like now I'm really relieved, because otherwise I would be dating out. Honestly, I'd be in love with about 20 people. I'd be like, oh,
I know.
there's a really good connection. I really feel it. He's totally the one. And
Exactly.
I wouldn't know who that person is. So I just like a little note of warning for anyone who is doing a bit of app dating while they're home alone. Just remember that until you meet them in person, you won't get a real feel. So do some nice slow dating, have some Zoom calls, watch some Netflix together, you know, all of that.
Play some Scrabble,
Scrabble. Exactly. But just know that it's not, you cannot get to the place of being like, oh yeah, the second we're allowed out of isolation, I'm going to marry this person.
Yeah, and also when people are bored, they can spout a whole load of bollocks.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah. There's probably people out there that have gone, right, I'm basically going to have 10 different personalities, and on Monday I'm going to be Bob, tomorrow I'm going to be Dave, and Dave works in, on Wednesday I'm going to be Simon, he's a banker. Literally, and they're out with all these different personas, just going for it.
How are you coping, my love? Because you don't just have other half, you've got other half plus kids plus dog, like whole house full of people. How is that working for you?
Wine. Wine and CBD oil, awesome. And to be honest, we're really lucky. We're out of London, just out of London, on the river. We're literally right on the river, and we've got a garden, and we can go out on the bike path. And do you know what I mean? We are so lucky and can't complain. And every time I want to throw my 5-year-old through the window, which is every 5 minutes, I have, my mantra is, it could be worse, it could be worse, it could be worse, it could be worse. And then I reach for the wine glass, and it's all so no, we're doing, and all, you know, we're doing little things, and actually I'm trying to find, and I keep getting sent all these like kids games to kind of keep them occupied. I keep seeing that an adult version of them. So like scavenger hunts for the kids. We've sent into the KK team to make a KK version for couples and people to do. And the kids are doing a jar of every day they put something in that they want to go and see or want to go and do when we get out, whether it's a friend's house or something. So I found another jar today, and what I want to do from tomorrow is actually me and James, hubby, put something in there every day of a date night we want when we come out. So when we come out,
That's really
whether
nice.
it happens or not, who knows? I mean, literally, I'm like old school romantic. Out, we can just pull something out of the jar and go, right, that's this week's date night, next week. So I think I don't know, I think I said the other day, it's making a lot of people more present, you know, because we charge around at 3,000 miles per hour. We take for granted so much stuff. I have so much childcare, so much, you know, I didn't take maternity leave. And you just suddenly, you're stopping and you're going, I'm present with my hubby, I'm present with my kids, even though I want to kill them after 5 minutes, and there's not one part of me that is a full-time mum, and I have so much respect for any full-time mums out there. But it's just, we've got in a bit of a rhythm, so
what's it like for your relationship?
I want it to be over.
What's it like for your relationship, though? Do you think like has it given you, the two of you, like, we're like, oh, actually we've got a bit of time and space, or is it like, oh no, life is...
No, we kind of rotate around the kids, but they're little, and you know, we have there was a KK virtual party last Friday. And I was like, right, date night. But I had to do an Insta live beforehand, and James went off at 7 o'clock into a room and did a pub quiz with his boys, a Zoom pub quiz. And then it was KK, but he turned up, and I had to apologise to the KK people because James was in a t-shirt. I went, I'm really sorry, but he's just come from a pub quiz in the next door room.
That's not
it's just, that's, you know what I mean? It's just, the whole thing just, it's just weird, isn't it? It's kind of, you get creative. That's the thing. So,
I think it has made me a little bit more creative. So I think one of the things I've noticed is like, I get all these ideas. I'm like, oh, we could do this, like a scavenger hunt. I had an idea for like a kind of adult Easter egg hunt. I was like, this is kind of, there is an opportunity here to be a little bit more interesting and thoughtful about what you're doing with your day.
Yeah, because you just get, you get so used to it, don't you? And you go, you know, sometimes you can rotate, you don't even see your partner much. You can see them for 5 minutes, one evening, and then it's digital and it's TV, and suddenly you're in the same space, and, you know, having to go, right, well, what can we do? And now, so getting onto the people, because I know there's people, because I've seen them pop up. There's people listening in who are singles, who are on their own in isolation, and obviously that loneliness and isolation are two huge things when it comes to negative mental health, and again on the dating front, and that just loneliness. What have you got, any sort of advice on that front?
Yeah, so I think actually I'm totally going to steal your idea of a jam jar full of things that you want to do when you're out.
Good, isn't it? I haven't even told my hubby that yet.
Yeah, so I think like that is lovely. Like, I think use this time and space to be like, actually, can I get really clear about what I want? Because quite often we're so busy, we're chasing stuff, and actually we haven't thought about really, is this what I really, really want? So, you know, if what you actually think you really want is somebody to go to a Tate Modern exhibition with, but that, like, get that specific about it, get really clear about it. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing, I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, which is really difficult if you're by yourself, is the loss of touch. Because as humans, we really need human touch. It's really important. And so thinking about how you can recreate some of that for yourself, which is not just code for can you spend some time masturbating, although I think
I think that, you know, explore yourself.
By all means, have a lovely time. But I actually did this thing for a friend of mine last year, where for her birthday I got her a box of fun stuff that she could use to make herself feel great. So like, I got her a feather that she can just kind of like roam all over her body, which is just, you've never done that. That's a really lovely, lovely way to feel a level of touch that doesn't feel like your own hand. you know what I mean? So it feels like somebody else is doing it because it's not you touching yourself. There's another thing touching you. Um, I got her some really lovely body oil because you can massage that in and it feels really luxurious and like a gift to yourself. I got her some amazing kind of, stick on body glitter tattoo
That's
things,
cool. Yeah.
so she could like decorate parts of her body and just feel really fabulous about them. So kind of stuff like that, which is about actually how can you celebrate your own body and your own, I guess, your own experience of your body in this time and place, I think is really important. And then the final thing is to think about actually who do you already have in your life that you should be connecting with that you are not. And this is a difficult one because some people are genuinely lonely because they do not have enough people in their lives. And
Yeah.
if that's you, then this is a great space and time to think about, okay, how can I add to those? Who are people that I haven't seen for ages? Who are people that I met and I never really followed up with? How can I connect with them now? But if you are somebody who's got a lot of people in your life, then it's like, okay, actually, how can I give some of them some quality time? The the thing that's been kind of so interesting to me about isolation is how much it's reminded me of being a kid, because I'm
Yeah.
making all these phone calls. I'm making phone calls for hours, and I haven't done that since I was a child. And actually, there's something really about being able to say, okay, actually, how can I schedule some time in
Yeah.
to really spend and talk to other people and listen to them?
Yeah.
And I think the phone is amazing for that. Lots of people in the comments saying like the missing concept of touch.
Yeah. There's
Honestly,
Sophie and Vanessa. They're huggers.
yeah. Like if you're missing, if you're huggers, it's so hard. It's going to sound ridiculous. Honestly, like hug a pillow, like that, just that comfort of something that is external to you but is being squeezed to you is
Mm.
obviously not the same. But it's going to give you a bit of muscle memory about the whole concept of just how you hug. And think of ways that you can give yourself that same level of touch. So actually, our parasympathetic nervous system, which is basically the system that goes from your gut to your brain and tells you when you're
Yeah.
anxious, is really calmed by stroking. So even if you just kind of stroke your way up and down your arm or up and down your legs, just really slowly spend like 10-15 minutes just really slowly stroking yourself, you're going to calm your whole parasympathetic nervous system, and it's just like your whole body will just go ah. And obviously, the ideal is to have somebody who can do that. But if there isn't somebody, you can still do it for yourself, and your body will still respond in the same way. And if you can actually teach your body how to do that, what you're going to find is that when this is over and you go back into the real world, you have an instant fix of being able to say, "This is how I know I can control my own
Mm.
anxiety."
And you don't need that because a lot of people when they're dating anyway, then it's sort of that they need that
Mm-hmm.
external love, that external
Yeah.
gratification, that external. So it's sort of because they're not happy
Yeah.
and they're not happy themselves, and they look outside themselves for different things to make themselves happy. So actually it's sort of use this time to, yes, it's there's a self-exploration of, with toys and everything to work out what makes you
Yeah.
happy, and sexually and really think about it, and also really think about what does make you happy. What are the
Yeah.
hobbies? What are the things that, because you're often so sort of, especially as women, are kind of the people pleaser
Yeah.
kind of thing. You go into relationships and you start doing things that you don't really enjoy doing, but you're doing it because, well, he likes doing that, so we're going to do that. I'm going to go along with
Get
it.
them into it. Yeah. And
Mm.
you don't know how to ask for what you want. So I think that's really important, which is if you can get really clear about what you like, then it's much easier then to be able to ask for it.
Mm.
Um, and also that, as you say, like women are kind of, particularly women, but some men, but women are particularly taught to be people pleasers.
Yeah.
But you can see this as a time where actually you can be really completely selfish and just do whatever you want to do.
Mm.
So actually, if you really want to spend 5 hours in the bathtub, spend 5 hours in the bathtub. If you want to watch a load of trashy Netflix, an entire Netflix series in a day,
I
do that.
wish.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's, when your life is kind of with somebody else, then you have an element of kind of, oh, okay, well, let's blend it together, and we don't have quite as much space and freedom. So I know that is an incredibly trite thing to say, and when people used to say that to me all the time, be like, oh, I roll. But it is a truth, which is like, well, you've got the time and space to be really selfish, be really selfish. Um, and just pause Netflix to watch you. What a compliment.
Oh, yay.
Particularly you're watching the tiger documentary that everybody else is watching.
Oh, I haven't seen. Oh, yeah, I need to. That's on my list. There's a lot on my list actually. I watched it for about 5 minutes at the moment.
And also I think the other thing to think about is if you've got somebody who is maybe, if you've got a buddy or a friend with benefits or something like that, now is the time to like enjoy a bit of sexting, enjoy a bit of talking on the phone, and get
And work out whether they're, actually they give you anything other than the benefits bit. You know what I mean? Because
absolutely.
it's very, you can get very rose-tinted spectacles of kind of the sex bit, will make you feel emotionally connected to people, and you think you're in love with them, and the rose-tinted spectacles are like fucking massive, and you're like, they're the one. And and then actually now you take that bit away, you take the physical sex part away from that dating part. There's my sister. I'm too tired for sex.
And that's the other thing. Actually, it's a really good point. So I read this incredible thing I did, which is like, why are we all so tired? And it's because actually what collectively we are going through is an experience of trauma. So collectively, right now, we're all a bit traumatized. And when we're traumatized, our bodies literally shut down to protect ourselves. So
are we all going to come out with serious PTSD at the end of it?
Yeah, probably a little bit, which would be great. Then the whole world will go to therapy and we'll understand ourselves much better and we'll be better human beings. But like, there's actually a bit of just being like, actually, if I am really tired, it's not because I'm not like making the most of this time or doing everything I should do. It's because my body is literally a bit traumatized and it just needs to go to bed. And that's okay.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah.
You're frozen. Oh, you're back.
Hiya. And have you got any tips for just keeping optimistic? That thing that I was reading, and actually I felt it like yesterday. It was yesterday, Monday. I literally have no freaking idea what day of the week it is. So yeah, Monday it hit of like, this is it. You know what I mean? You had a kind of, it wasn't really a novelty, but it was sort of hilarious. Loads and loads of memes going around, everyone kind of laughing, and this is it, and suddenly it was sort of Sunday, Monday, yesterday, and I heard it from so many different people and read about, read different things that it just hit people that this is it. And it was a real downer actually of like shit. And I felt a bit of a caged animal because I'm a free spirit of this is it. We need to get in a rhythm. This is happening. You know what I mean? I can't just fuck off. My thing is like, I can go on the tow path.
Get in the car and drive.
Yeah, exactly. I can get in the car and sob is about the extent of it. But so on that front, have you got any sort of tips on that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to know that's acceptable, right? So that's the first thing, is like, you don't have to be on form the whole time. You don't have to be having a good day every day. You don't have to be dealing with it and being really strong. I named it Wank Wednesday because it's been Wank Day. I feel that.
Someone before that said put the cheesy 90s music on as soon as they wake up and get out of bed dancing. That's a good one. Dancing's meant to be very good for the soul. Yeah.
Dancing, great tip. Anything that basically changes the energy. So that's the thing about, which is like, okay, well, if so there's two ways of looking at it, which is to go into it or to go out of it. So you can either go out of it, which is like, okay, I'm feeling really slow and sad and miserable, so I'm going to put on the cheesiest, happiest, most ridiculous pop I know and dance around the room to that and really, really go for it. Or you can go the other way, which is like, I'm feeling really sad and stuck and miserable, so I'm going to go into that even more. And I have done this before, where you make a playlist of all the kind of angriest, saddest, most depressing songs you like,
and watch like The Notebook and all these films
you like put on the shittest clothes you've got, the ones you hate. I literally put on a bin bag, and then you
get the ice cream.
And you full on go for it. You behave like a 2-year-old having a
tantrum. Literally, it's all or nothing. You've got to commit to either being full on happy, crazy, or full on literally, yeah.
And that's the thing, which is like, actually, if you really go into it, what you're going to find is you'll get out of it almost a bit quicker.
Yeah.
You'll be like, okay, I've acknowledged and I've seen the feeling and I've been in it, and I'm out the other side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the fear bubble. They say about the fear is you've got to go into the bubble of fear, acknowledge it, feel the fear, and then go, right, I'm feeling it, I've got it, and now I'm out. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing, which is like, we tend to worry. We think, oh my God, if I go into that feeling, I'm never going to get out of it. And the reality is, probably you will. you know, probably not. Unless we're talking like serious medical diagnosis, in which case fair enough. But most of the time, if you go into the feeling, eventually you will come out the other side. If you trust your body, you will come out the other side and you'll be okay. And so that's the kind of the most important thing. And the second most important thing is to think about, okay, well, there are kind of like things that we need as human beings. So how can I give myself some of those things? So we need physical touch. So how can I give myself some form of physical touch? We need to learn. We need to use our brains in some way, shape, or form. So can I go and read something interesting, watch an interesting TED talk, whatever it is, something that allows my brain to do something a bit new and different. We need to do some sort of physical exercise, whatever it is. So anything is fine. Any small bit of physical exercise, dancing, yoga, running, whatever. We need to do some form of meditation. And when I say meditation, it doesn't have to be sitting on a cushion, but it has to be something that allows your brain to switch off, which is why we're all so busy doing jigsaws and crafting right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is we need some form of human connection. So some way that we feel that we have connected to another human being. And that might be by doing something good for someone. It might be by having a phone call with somebody we love. It might be by telling somebody else, actually, I'm having a really shit day and I'm really feeling it. Whatever it is, you know, if you can find one of those 5 things, that will shift your mood a little bit. And you'll find yourself.
Yeah, and just finding someone, it's that being vulnerable, isn't it? Just sort of not pretending to be, right, I've got this type thing. You're going, I'm I'm not coping today, and phone someone up and just, and especially the video chat. Do you know what I mean? There's so much stuff out there happening at the moment, from the house party app, Zoom, you know, WhatsApp, anything that you just get a face on a phone to chat to.
Yeah.
And say, I am struggling, I'm having a shit day, just talk to me. Yeah.
That's the important thing, which is like human connection doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from being really honest about what's going on with you in that time and place. So if you say, I'm having a shit day and this is how I feel, you're going to have a much better level of connection than if you're like, hey, just phoning for a chat, want to see how you are, you know.
We just had big questions there. And any wisdom on dating via Zoom, things to be aware of, advantages to take advantage, and how does isolation affect how you interact with potential partners? Nice question.
Great question, Al. So I would say things to be aware of if you're dating either via Zoom or whatever else. First of all, I didn't know that Zoom had a filters app. It does. So be aware. If you are really, really good looking, they might not look like that in real life. So that's just the first one.
And as we said earlier about they can bullshit, there's being bored and bullshitting on the chat. So just be aware of that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also be aware that nobody's in their kind of normal routine at the moment. So you might have 4 hours of conversation with somebody and you're like, oh my God, we've had this amazing 4-hour connection and we really talked and really spoke. But that's because right now they are being furloughed and they've got those 4 hours. And actually, when they're back at work, they're going to be a complete workaholic.
Yeah.
And you don't know that. So you're seeing people in a very different circumstance. Think about Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves in Speed. And she says to him, you know, nobody can form a true relationship out of a crisis situation. And that is worth remembering. Because Keanu Reeves did not make it to Speed 2. She had to find a whole new person. And then the other thing I would say is like actually use it as a way to go slow. So we could all be using Zoom to have kind of sexy naked dancing around the living room dates. Fine. But I would actually use it as a way you can share your screen so you can watch Netflix together. You can use it as a way to have like a much kind of calmer conversation. You can cook together. Get creative with how you use it and use it to actually date rather than...
And just see it as see it as it's not so serious as in like blinkered vision using these dating sites to go out and find your husband, find your wife. Just change that mindset into, I'm going to go out and find buddies and hanging out partners and people that I can hang out with online, watch Netflix, play Scrabble, play chess, do whatever, show the odd dick pic, if you really, you know, if you want to go down that route, but just you know, just to hang out with, and just change it like that, because you know what, the future Mr. and Mrs. is not suddenly, if you change your mindset on how you're going to, and not call it dating, call it hanging out. It's not going to affect finding Mr. and Mrs. And actually, to be honest, you often find it when you're not looking and when you least expect it, and they'll come left field or you know, I found my husband was not some, you know, I did not want to be dating anyone when I met him, and it was sort of totally left field. So it's actually quite, it takes the pressure off really if you change your mindset of out of that blanket, I must find someone way of
And
thinking.
also, one thing said is anything to be aware of about how you interact with potential partners. One thing I would say is be aware that right now you are probably quite bored. You're looking for something to entertain you. You're looking for something to pass the time with. So just know that, like, it's a bit like dating. You know, when you meet somebody on holiday, you've got a whole new level of time to interact. And so you might be like, oh my God, they've sent me a message. We're going to chat. I'm so excited about it. Yeah, you are, because you've got nothing else to fill 24 hours. So if it's the thing that's filling it, then it's going to be really exciting. Actually,
Yeah.
if you're busier, would you feel as excited to hear from them? And that's just something to be aware of, right? Which is that actually this person might be fabulous right now when we've all got time and space. Does not mean they're going to be a lifelong partner after that. The other thing I'd say is just, you know, in terms of like purely practical things, think about having
I'm
a
just
good
seeing some
checkout.
jail comments.
I was going to say, have a good checkout of their background, like what's going on in the background, what can you see and spot. You can learn a lot about people from their living room interiors. And think about, you know, just the kind of, that it might feel a bit more stilted, that sometimes the connection is a bit slow, or it might not feel as easy as it is face to face. So that's okay too. Like, just make allowances for that.
Cool. All right then. Are there any other questions that anyone has or want to ask Harriet? Any questions? No, she's not going to show you her boobs. Cool. Well, Harriet, I'll let you get back to the new man.
Thanks,
And the
Danny.
dog. And great to see you. So thanks for coming on. And anyone who stayed and listening, thank you very much for joining us. And there'll be plenty more, because let's be honest, I've got